Hello and welcome to Hymns and Their Stories. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by life? Perhaps you've experienced grief, loneliness, anxiety, or depression. Maybe you've prayed for help but felt as though heaven was silent. If so, you're not alone. Today we will explore the remarkable story behind a hymn that was born out of deep depression. A hymn that has comforted Christians for more than 250 years. Its title is God Moves in a Mysterious Way. What makes this hymn extraordinary is that it was written by a man who struggled with despair for most of his life. And yet, through his suffering, God gave him words that continue to strengthen millions of people facing their darkest moments. This is the story of William Cowper. William Cowper was born in England in 1731. At first glance, his life seemed promising. He came from a respected family and received a good education. But beneath the surface, William carried emotional wounds that would follow him throughout his life. When he was only 6 years old, his mother died. The loss devastated him. Many years later, he would write that he never truly recovered from losing her. Imagine a young child losing the person who made him feel safe and loved. That pain remained with him for decades. As he grew older, Cowper developed severe anxiety and depression. At a time when mental illness was poorly understood, people often suffered alone, and William suffered deeply. As a young man, Cowper pursued a legal career, but anxiety overwhelmed him. The pressure became unbearable. His mental health deteriorated so severely that he experienced nervous breakdowns. There were moments when he felt completely hopeless, moments when he believed there was no future, moments when he wondered if life was worth living. To those around him, William seemed fragile. To himself, he often felt broken. Yet even in those darkest moments, God had not abandoned him. Sometimes God is working most powerfully when we can see him the least. That truth would eventually become the heart of Cowper's most famous hymn. In God's providence, William met a pastor named John Newton. You may know Newton as the author of another famous hymn, Amazing Grace. Newton understood suffering, he understood failure, and he became a trusted friend to William. Together they studied scripture, prayed, and encouraged one another. Newton never minimized William's struggles. Instead, he pointed him repeatedly to Christ. Their friendship reminds us that people battling depression often need compassionate companions. Sometimes one faithful friend can make a tremendous difference. In 1773, William Cowper wrote a hymn called God Moves in a Mysterious Way. The opening words declare, God moves in a mysterious way, His wonders to perform. These words weren't written by someone whose life was easy. They came from a man who knew suffering firsthand. One of the most famous verses says, Judge not the Lord by feeble sense, but trust him for his grace. Behind a frowning providence, he hides a smiling face. What a beautiful picture. Sometimes life looks dark. Sometimes circumstances seem impossible. But God sees the whole story. What appears to us as disaster may be part of a greater plan we cannot yet understand. For centuries, this hymn has comforted people facing depression, illness, financial hardship, loss of loved ones, and uncertain futures. Why? Because it doesn't pretend life is easy. Instead, it acknowledges that life can be confusing and painful. Yet it points us toward hope. Many people have discovered that God often does His greatest work through difficult seasons. The storm may not disappear immediately, but faith gives us strength to endure. This hymn reminds us that God's purposes are often hidden at first. Only later do we see how He was guiding us all along. What can we learn from William Cowper's story? Lesson 1. Faithful Christians can struggle with depression. Depression is not proof that someone lacks faith. Even devoted believers can experience deep emotional pain. Lesson 2. God is present even when He feels distant. Feelings change, God's promises do not. Lesson 3, we need one another. God often works through friendships, family, pastors, and caring communities. Lesson 4, our suffering can encourage others. William Cowper's pain became a source of comfort for millions. His story reminds us that God can bring beauty from brokenness. William Cowper never imagined that a hymn written during his struggle would still be sung centuries later. Yet today, countless believers continue to find hope in his words. Perhaps you are facing a difficult season right now. Perhaps life feels uncertain. Remember the message of this hymn, God is still working. Even when we cannot understand His plans, even when the path seems dark, even when hope feels distant. As William Cowper wrote, "Blind unbelief is sure to err and scan his work in vain. God is his own interpreter, and he will make it plain." Thank you for joining us on Hymns and Their Stories. If this story encouraged you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who may need hope today. Until next time, may God's peace be with you.